Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Fight the spread and take a stand against coronavirus. Wear a mask in public. Stay at least 6 feet apart from others. And get tested. Join us and fight the spread. Visit scdhec.gov/COVID-19.
In It Together and the Diabetes Advisory Council present Wellness Wednesday right here on Coping with COVID. Good afternoon, I'm Tre Tailor, and today the topic is World AIDS Day. Carmen Julious, longtime Executive Director with Palmetto AIDS Life Support Services, joins us. Thank you, Carmen. We appreciate you joining us and for everything that you do for our community.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. She'll be joined by Sharita Dozier, who is a nurse practitioner over at Palmetto AIDS Life Support. Sharita, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, these ladies are going to join us to discuss the observance of World AIDS Day plus HIV, AIDS, STDs, and how that impacts other chronic conditions. That and more coming up next on Coping with COVID. But first, your COVID community updates. The CDC has changed the quarantine guidelines. Now, anyone who has been exposed to COVID can resume normal activity after 10 days or 7 if they receive a negative test result. Now, before the CDC mandated a 14-day quarantine, they still say the best way to protect yourself is to wear a mask and suggest not traveling over the holidays. For Lexington District 5, schools are closed today because several teachers did not return after the holiday break. Now, the school board is holding a special meeting later on this afternoon to determine the next steps. This after staff say they don't feel safe due to the number of students in classes, and they don't think the board is being sensitive to their concerns. Officials with Lexington School District 5 say they will send a notification about school through the automated phone system. And the Fairfield County Sheriff's Department is warning citizens, if you get a call about a police report and an Amazon account being breached, it's a phone scam. The department has received several calls and urged people not to give anyone your personal information over the phone. And if you do have a question or you are unclear, hang up and call the Sheriff's Department. SCDHEC has your most up-to-date list of times, dates, and location for COVID testing in and around South Carolina. Visit scdhec.gov for information. Now, you can also go to gogettested.com. You can find out the closest location for free tests statewide. You can make an appointment and get your results in 48 hours. Again, the website is gogettested.com. Check the scroll at the bottom of the screen for more information about organizing a COVID screening at your event or in your community, or the DHEC Care Line. Now, you can get information about the virus and transportation to get a test. Speaking of transportation, if you are immobile or know someone who is and live in Richland and Clarendon counties, those paramedics are actually doing in-home COVID screenings. Call 911 for more information. Also, don't forget about SC Bar Association and SC Legal Services. Now, if you are having some challenges paying your rent or mortgage, they are offering a toll-free number and also a website if you need more information. You can check the bottom of the screen for more information. And the City of Columbia is continuing to offer a 6-month payment plan for water bills and payment assistance up to 75% off. Rashonda Pratt has a YouTube page for virtual learning and working. You can stop by her YouTube page and get information if you need it. Now, if you're in the market for a job, the Department of Juvenile Justice is having a free drive-through job fair. That's this Thursday from noon until 3 p.m. It's going to be held in Columbia at 1721 Shivers Road. They urge you to bring your driver's license, your birth certificate, your social security card, college transcript if you have it. Signing bonuses are available. Again, that's Thursday, tomorrow, from noon until 3 at SCDJJ in Columbia. And if you are a graduating senior, there is a scholarship information. The South Carolina Association of Counties is announcing a Board of Directors scholarship program, awarding a $2,500 scholarship on an annual basis every year. $2,500, that's big time for Richland County students in 2021. Again, look at the screen for more information about how to apply for that scholarship. The Diabetes Advisory Council and In It Together present Coping with COVID Wellness Wednesday, every Wednesday, right here on Coping with COVID. We are actually streaming live. You can see the In It Together Facebook page right there. We're streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. We're also streaming live on the home of Coping with COVID, which is the Tailor Made Productions page. Would you please go over there and like and follow? You can not only watch Coping with COVID weekdays at 2 p.m., you can also get all of your COVID-related updates. We're also streaming live on YouTube. Want to thank everyone who is checking us out on YouTube. And please ask to hit the subscribe button. One more thing, we're also on IG, Instagram. So please go over to our Instagram page and make sure that you follow us there. Now, if you need information about diabetes, how to manage it, or to join a class to help you manage your diabetes or pre-diabetes, visit the In It Together website, or again, the In It Together Facebook page. You can see it right there. I'm Tre Tailor, and I want to urge you to please post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses, because today we're talking about something that's so very important, but still, after all these years, is a stigma in all of our communities. Yesterday was World AIDS Day, and Carmen Julious joins us to discuss why it's important to have this observance. Plus, we'll talk about HIV, AIDS, STD, and how it affects other diseases. Sharita Dozier also joins us. She is a nurse practitioner with Palmetto AIDS Life Support. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us on Coping with COVID. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Want to say hi to Mitchell Peace Joy Jen. Thank you so much, Mitchell, for joining. She said she received her her prize package. I hope you enjoy it, Mitchell. Thank you so much for joining us. So, ladies, AIDS has been around a long time. How long has it been exactly, Carmen?
Well, the first reports of what we now know as AIDS were reported in 1980.
Wow.
PALSS has actually been working in the community in South Carolina since 1985. So we've been around 35 of the 40 years since the first reports of AIDS, of what we now know as AIDS.
Is AIDS. So 40 years, and still this observance, World AIDS Day, is needed. Why is that, Carmen?
Well, the purpose of World AIDS Day is to raise awareness of the HIV epidemic, not just in our communities, but worldwide, globally.
Right.
Certainly, for us who work in the field of HIV every day, we have education, training, information that may not be available or as accessible or received by the general population. So it is important that we keep the issue of the HIV epidemic in the forefront of the community consciousness, because we all have a role to play in ending the HIV epidemic.
Yeah. So what are the stats right now, not only for the United States, but for South Carolina?
Well, unfortunately, in South Carolina, we have around almost 15,000 people currently living with HIV in our communities.
Wow.
Again, the largest burden of that HIV rate is in African American communities. So we have a lot of skin in the game. We literally must, yes, absolutely. We must especially be concerned about the rates. We must especially focus on education and training in our community and prevention efforts. We have to support preventive education. I think sometimes we forget that HIV is so integrated with other things, with substance use and our youth experimenting with their lifestyles and their sexual behaviors. We have to take an approach of coming at HIV from a lot of different perspectives. Testing and knowing what your status is the most important. We still know that there's 1 in 5 people who don't know their HIV status. In African American communities, that proportion could be higher.
Wow. So you say African Americans are at the highest risk. Why is that, Carmen? Do you think it is, as you say, just not being aware or not being conscientious, or is it the old thing, if I don't acknowledge it, maybe it won't be true?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons. There's cultural reasons, and then there's public health scientific reasons. So public health scientists know that if you are living in a community where there is a larger burden of disease, you are more likely to come in contact with someone who has that disease. So when you think about in our communities, dating and casual relationships, you are more likely to come in contact with someone with that disease. It is not about who we are. It is about who we do. Being African American or being Black is not the cause of HIV. It is behaviors.
Yeah.
So the other piece is that culturally, we have this idea, grandma always used to say, what's going to happen is going to happen. Okay. It's already done. It's already done. So that kind of removes our accountability. It kind of removes our responsibility for taking care of and focusing on our own health and our own protection and the protection of folk in our family. The other piece of that is, when I grew up, good girls did not talk about sex. You just did not. It was all about, you stay home, you keep your dress down, you stay away from those boys. And for boys, I'm sure it was some of the same thing. We did not discuss same-sex behavior. It just was not discussed. And so all of those kinds of things were not really woven into our culture. And here we are in living with multiple epidemics right now.
Right.
And not having that cultural background of understanding that we have a role, that we have power, that we can keep ourselves healthy and safe if we engage in certain behaviors. And so here we are trying to get that message out and trying to do the education. And I don't want people to think there is no uptake in African American communities. There is. We just need to do more. We need to be consistent. We need to be frank, and we need to come at this issue from a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah, that's Carmen Julious. She is the CEO of PALSS, Palmetto AIDS Life Support. It is, we're talking about a World AIDS Day, and she was just saying how African Americans have the highest percentage in South Carolina. Is that worldwide too, Carmen, or just in South Carolina?
Well, of course, in African countries, again, we see extremely high burden of HIV. And again, I want to emphasize it is not about our skin color. It is not about how we look, or it is not about how we racially identify. It is about behavior. It is about access to healthcare and healthcare information, access to prevention education that is just not available as widely in communities of color as it is in other communities. We have a lower percentage of people who have access to health insurance, where you can go get those annual exams or go and see if something is okay, if everything is okay. So it's about that. It is about the disparities in our community.
Yeah, it's you make such a great point, because I think COVID really amplified, shone a light on how huge the disparities are, particularly with people of color, Black and brown people, because we are the hardest hit. And it goes right back to what you're saying. It's because we don't have the access to health care. We don't get the information that's needed. And, just to say, I'm so glad for this partnership with DHEC In It Together and the Diabetes Advisory Council to really bring information where people are, which is here on social media, to raise the awareness, because these are some things that are literally killing us as Black and brown people because of the disparity. That's Carmen Julious. She is the CEO of PALSS. Jason Douglas, thank you so much for joining us. Please post and share this information out so we can get to the message to the masses. So Sharita, are you hearing the same types of things? Because you're seeing people, you are up close and personal, one-on-one with folks that are affected and infected. So what are people telling you? What are clients, patients telling you when they come to you and end up, you're having to either treat them or tell them, that they have HIV, AIDS, and any other type of STD?
I would certainly have to agree with what Carmen has already stated. There's a lot of people within our community that are saying, I didn't know about PrEP. I didn't hear about it. And when people don't know, they'll end up infected. And because we have limited access, and And unfortunately, a lot of my clients that are on PrEP, they're not people of color. The majority of them are. So I'm not sure what's happening. Where's the glitch? Where's the downfall? But they hear about it and they come in and they get on PrEP and they're not getting HIV. But most of the people of color that I see, they're infected already.
Yeah. Because listen, girl, I hear, and I don't watch a lot of TV, but I see the commercials all the time. So, and I'm probably not a typical TV watcher. I watch National Geographic. I listen to NPR, you know what I'm saying? But I'm thinking, if there's a PrEP commercial on CNN, MSNBC, there's got to be a PrEP commercial on TV1, BET. You know what I'm saying?
And there are. And again, you know, a lesson we learned several years ago was we put up a lot of billboards around the city talking about HIV and HIV prevention. And we were getting all of these calls from people saying, we saw your billboard's good, blah, blah, blah. But what we realized was that the people that saw it and the people that we talked to were not the people we were targeting. So we asked the group that we were targeting, and they said, "Oh no, we don't get information from billboards." They, and like you say, maybe they don't get information from TV. So you have to do some other things. We've started a bus bench campaign here in Columbia.
I saw that.
So we're promoting PrEP, as Sharita was talking about, to our community on these bus benches. We've begun to do some work on HBCU college campuses to let younger people know what PrEP is. And because we found out that up to 80% of college age youth did not know what PrEP was. Yes, they had heard of it. Yes, they'd seen commercials, but they did not know what it was for, and they did not know it was appropriate for them. So we've got a lot of work to do culturally about getting this word out.
Yeah, we're talking to Carmen Julious and Sharita Douglas with Palmetto AIDS Life Support. Sharita, you were going to say something? I'm sorry.
Yes, I would like to add onto what Carmen was saying culturally, and I think a lot of the other issue comes from there was once a time that culturally we couldn't go to doctors and we weren't treated for a lot of diseases, and a lot of things were treated at home with home remedies. So we've been taught you don't need to go to the doctor. If there's nothing wrong, you don't do that. You don't take medicine if there's not a condition that you need to be taking medicine for. So a lot of times we've been preconditioned to believe that you don't need to try to prevent. You only take medicine if you have a condition. If there's no condition, why are you taking medicine? So it's hard to kind of get that concept out of people's mind when they, for some reason, we just don't want to take medicine if it's not medically necessary. We need to be diagnosed first. And now
Right. That's such an interesting, perspective and concept, because everything is cultural. I mean, we eat, we sleep, we live, we drive, we dress because of our culture and how we grow up and what we are exposed to. This is a different example, but I have two babies, a 2 and a 4-year-old in my house, and I'm pretty much of a clean eater. And the last 2 mornings, the 4-year-old asked for some pumpernickel toast. So and I thought to myself, why is he asking for pumpernickel? You know why? Because I eat pumpernickel bread. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just that simple and he will grow up eating pumpernickel bread as opposed to white bread, because why? That's what he is raised with. And I think we forget how impressionable and how important it is, even for our youth, when we are raising young people, and for our teenagers, our college students, what we expose them to, what they are exposed to, that shape who they are, what they think, what they do, and their whole concept of the world. We're talking to Sharita Dozier and Carmen Julious with Palmetto's AIDS Life Support. We're talking about World AIDS Day. Michelle Harris says it's difficult to have a comprehensive conversation about AIDS and HIV in the Bible Belt. which is a whole nother thing. What
Yep.
role does the faith community play?
And you know what? That is such a great question. And I'm glad she asked it so we can talk about it, because we must. So some of what we're talking about culturally, in our community, the church is a cornerstone.
It's everything.
And I know everybody doesn't do the church thing, but a good majority of our community does.
Yes.
And when we're talking about getting information, a lot of times that's where we get information from.
Yes.
We're hearing a lot in churches right now about COVID, or from churches about COVID. We don't hear that about HIV and STDs, because again, we don't have these very frank and open conversations. So if we could say to our communities of faith that we are talking about the health of our community. Health is our wealth, is our future. If we can frame it like that, it may be more palatable. Every church I know has a youth group. And those are prime places to get information going and to be able to change norms around behavior for our youth, and therefore in our communities. We can even encourage conversations in the home. It is hard. You would not believe how many parents tell us they don't talk to their children about sex, or they never had that conversation, or the child was, grown and getting married before they had any conversations about sexual behavior.
Wow.
That is something that we have to change in our community. Again, grandma always used to say, just keep your dress tail down. Keep your dress tail down. What did that mean? Because you can have sex with your dress on. You don't have to.
No, that's right, girl.
So we have got.
And you can do other things. You can do
all
other
kinds of things. All kinds of. And so we've got to stop speaking in code to our youth. We just have to have that frank conversation. And I always say to folks, if you are not comfortable having it with your child, find a trusted care provider who can. We have people who call and speak to our outreach workers and our case managers, and to Sharita about those kinds of things, of how they can talk to their family, their friends, their loved ones about sexual behavior and about the consequences of sexual behavior. It was important for us to find a provider who we felt could connect with our community, because a lot of times, providers are on that thing where they can only have like 10 minutes or 7 minutes per patient and that kind of thing. And that tends to cut short these kinds of conversations. You have to build a rapport with people for them to talk about intimate behavior.
That's right.
And you can't do that in 7 minutes. Okay. So, I think, all of this has led us to where we are. But we can save ourselves. Because I don't see help coming from any place else. So we have to step in and take care of ourselves and of our community. Our community is most important to us. And we have to show that in our behaviors, in our conversations, and in our focus on the health conditions that are killing us.
Yeah, we have to be our own knight in shining armor.
Absolutely.
Sharita Douglas and Carmen Julious with Palmetto AIDS Life Support join us. World AIDS Day was yesterday, and we're having a conversation about AIDS, HIV, STDs. We talked a little about teens and college students. How big a problem is it? I mean, so we know African Americans, we're hardest hit. So let's talk about teens, adults, seniors, and even college students. What are the numbers there, and the stats and the concerns in those four areas: teens, adults, college students, and seniors?
Well, what we know right now is that South Carolina is the 7th most sexually diseased state in the country.
Wow. And that's HIV, AIDS, STDs, right?
Chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, all of those sexually transmitted illnesses. And we know that a large burden of the sexually transmitted diseases are among youth. Again,
and that's 18 and under? Is that
15 to 24?
15 to 24.
Yes. So, that's, again, we're trying to, find out who we are. We're getting into maybe some first intimate relationships. We're going off to college. We're getting businesses started. We are trying to start families, trying to start careers. All of that happens in that age group. And so, again, that is the age group that we need to be talking to, because STD often is the indicator that that person is at risk, of course, for HIV. You get HIV in a lot of the same ways that you contract an STD. So we have to intervene in that age group. We have to be able to talk to that age group, and frankly and openly. When we do presentations, I always ask how many parents think that their children are having sex. Nobody raises their hand. But then I ask how many of you think that your children's friends are having sex. Everybody raises their hand.
Right.
I don't know who their friends are having sex with.
Right, that's right. Yeah, they're not having it by themselves.
So we have to think about that. Usually sex is an activity that involves more than one person.
You know what? Not only that, Carmen, this sounds, and I don't mean to generalize it, but birds of a feather flock together. So if I'm having sex, my girlfriend is, maybe at least feel pressured to do it also, because I'm talking to my girlfriend, my 15, 16-year-old girlfriend, about what's going on.
And that's called peer pressure.
Yes,
peer pressure.
It is.
And it is creating an environment where it's normal to do these kinds of behaviors.
Exactly.
So well, if everybody else is doing it, I might as well do it too. Somebody said that to me not very long ago. That I didn't know everybody else was doing it, so why should I?
Yeah.
So and I don't know. I think I cut off Sharita. She might have been trying to say something, but
no, I wasn't.
I just wanted to put that out there, that we often think that, everybody wants to think that their child is abstinent. Certainly. I have a 19-year-old. Certainly, I wanted to think that. But, I also know in that age group of 15 to 24, that is where we experiment. That is where we believe nothing bad is going to happen to me. I'm golden, right? We all have that thought. And I know I'm not the only one, but if some of us remember back, we thought that same thing. Okay. And there was this idea that, if I only do it this one time, it's okay. Or this person looks like a healthy person. We go through all of that kind of justification, but we do it without information and without education. So really, that's like sitting your child on a train track and watching the train coming. Okay. Yeah. And we, as parents and as adults and as caring persons in the community, we have to do better. We have to be able to allow our youth to have information that is going to help them stay healthy. When we have sometimes gone to talk with youth groups, they tell us, okay, don't talk about condoms.
Oh, wow. Well, what are you supposed to talk about?
And we've sometimes had to say we might not be the group to come to talk to you. Because, what good is it?
Right. Because if you're calling you to come talk to the kids, you're not coming to tell a fairy tale. You're coming to talk to them about what you deal with. Yeah. So I guess is the premise, if you talk about it, they'll do it.
I think that happens a lot of times. People think if you just ignore it, if you don't talk about it, it won't happen. But by the same token, talking about sex and sexual behaviors is not giving permission to have sex.
Right. It's giving information.
It's giving information. And we need to get beyond thinking that if I talk to my child about this thing, they're going to want to go do it. They want to go do it anyway.
They're going to do it.
They're going to do it anyway. So you need to make sure that when they do, that they have the information that they need to make decisions that will help them to stay healthy.
Yeah. Carmen, Julious, and Sharita Dozier join us from Palmetto AIDS Life Support Services. And we're going to come back in just a minute and talk a little bit more about Palmetto AIDS Life Support, World AIDS Day. What services, other than coming out to the community and not talking about HIV and sex, PALSS provides for the community, eligibility, cost, and services. And also, we want to talk about how STDs, HIV, and AIDS impacts other chronic conditions, including diabetes, the flu, and COVID. We're going to do that next on Coping with COVID. Hey, don't forget that Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday from the Diabetes Advisory Council. If you need information about diabetes, how to manage it, and to join a class to help you manage your diabetes or pre-diabetes, please visit the In It Together Facebook page or the website. I'm Tre Tailor. Judy Etheridge, I see your question. We're going to come to it coming up next on Coping with COVID. Thank you, Glaze, so much.
People will be able to look 100 years from now. They will know how we got over. This makes it even more important that we shine this light.
Part of it also wasn't the fact that we couldn't have the physical graduation, but I also couldn't celebrate with my family out of town.
For me, I feel like this is a new normal. This is not going away anytime soon, I don't think.
Anything that's happened before can happen again. And the same thing is at play with this virus.
You know, we are no longer in a building, and we've talked about church being, you know, with us, in us.
Have you traveled abroad? Late in the past 6 months, you know, we were trying to trace it back as early as November.
This flu season arrives during the COVID-19 pandemic. Groups at risk for serious illness from COVID-19 and flu are similar, but complications from flu are much higher in young children. Everyone over 6 months of age should get a flu shot to help prevent more illnesses, hospitalizations, and deaths in South Carolina.
The flu is not just a cold. Each year, many South Carolinians are hospitalized from the flu and even die.
Getting the flu vaccine is the best protection against the flu for everyone in your family.
The flu vaccine is safe, effective, and does not cause the flu.
You can make a difference this flu season by protecting yourself from the flu.
It's important that I protect my baby.
It's important that we protect our families.
It's important that we protect our schools.
And our students.
It's important.
It's important.
It's important.
It's important that we protect our state.
Talk to your healthcare provider, pharmacist, or health department about the flu vaccine today. This flu season,
Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Established in 2010 with past national media guests like Janice Huff, Mitch Faulkner, and Dolores Washington, and local celebs like Cynthia Hardy, Miranda Parnell, Vaughn Gaskin, Kevin Cohen, Vanzell Hare, and Makita Pearson, and hosted by Darcy Strickland and Tony G. Palmetto Media Connections in the past has distributed to the community over $1,000 in gift cards. Connect with us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together.
Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Hey, thank you for joining us again, Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday from the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina. Hey, don't forget, if you need information about diabetes, how to manage it, and to join a class to help you manage diabetes or pre-diabetes, please visit the In It Together SC website or Facebook page. We're discussing World AIDS Day. Carmen Julious with the Palmetto AIDS Life Support System joins us, along with Sharita Dozier. And we have been, kind of talking about the statistics and the risks and who is actually at risk. And we want to talk now about how that impacts other illnesses, because unfortunately, but we do know that African Americans have a high incidence of pretty much everything else. We're talking about diabetes, heart disease, you name it, we've got it pretty much. And so what are the risks involved with people with HIV, AIDS, and STDs? How does that impact? Let's start first with diabetes.
Well, what we know is that our HIV medications and our HIV treatment and care has advanced to the point where people are living longer with HIV. So that means that as we move into certain age groups, certain illnesses may be more common, again, based on lifestyle, things like lifestyle and heredity and all the other things that go into it, but things like diabetes and high blood pressure and high cholesterol and all those kinds of things. So we are seeing more of that, what they call comorbidities among people living with HIV. And Sharita treats folks every day, so she, I know, has more information than I do about that. So
yeah, I want to say hi to Judy Etheridge. She says she's so happy to hear us talking about this because our community needs to know that HIV is real. Thank you, Judy, so much for joining us. I want to encourage everyone to please continue to share this information out, because particularly, and I say this with every show, but we really need to get this message to the masses, because in the last segment, both Sharita and Carmen mentioned that as African Americans, people of color, it is affecting our community more. And it's because a lot of it, obviously, we don't get the same amount of healthcare information that everybody, other ethnicities get. But we're not getting it. We don't know what's going on, basically. So, Sharita, tell us a little bit about how it is, as Carmen was alluding to, this affects, and let's start with diabetes. If you have HIV, AIDS, or STDs, how does that affect you if you have diabetes?
You can be affected in many ways if you have diabetes and HIV. But the main thing is, if you control your HIV is a disease that attacks your immune system. So if you're not taking your medications, and if your HIV is not suppressed, if it's uncontrolled, that puts you at risk. Anything can attack you. So it could cause your blood sugars to spike. It can have you, and especially if you're dieting, if you're not eating well, you're not taking your medication, you're going to place yourself at risk for anything, any other medical conditions. And I definitely see diabetes a lot more often now than I did when I first came to PALSS. And I'm starting to see more rises in blood sugars.
Wow. And is it because your immune system is already compromised, even with STDs, not only HIV and AIDS?
Definitely have a compromised immune system. And for the people that have the diabetes that are eating right and taking their meds, both for diabetes and their HIV, I see that they're better controlled. But the ones that aren't undetected and their viral loads aren't suppressed, I start to see where blood sugars are being affected by that.
Wow. And then, of course, I guess you then go in and they've got to, take medications and things like that.
Yes. And I typically try to start with dieting first, depending on how high the blood sugars are or the A1C may be. So I try to start with, because especially when you're dealing with people of color, you don't want to overload them. I've learned you don't want to start with a bunch of medications. That in particular will definitely start. I think it's going to cause a little bit of non-adherence. So I try to start with dieting. And a lot of things I try to educate with is I'll tell my patients, if you can drink more water, you will start to see a difference if you can drink more water. When you're hungry, try to drink a bottle of water before you eat, because you're probably not going to eat much if you drink a bottle of water before you eat. You'll be able to hold much food if you've already had a whole entire bottle of water. If you want to drink better choices, try to drink unsweetened tea.
Right.
Discourage sodas and juices, Kool-Aid. People from our community, our culture, we love to go.
Right.
That's okay, but it's harmful. Teach your children to drink flavored water versus Kool-Aid. They're children. They don't know any better. So if you teach them that, then they'll grow up with the habit of knowing, I don't buy sodas at my house, or I didn't, we don't pick up juice at the grocery store. We'll get us some water.
They'll drink some water. Yeah.
So I try to start patients that are co-infected with HIV and diabetes. I try to start with educating and seeing if I can take the baby steps to getting them to make lifestyle modifications, especially within their diet. I try to encourage them to get out, go walking. But of course, if these things aren't working and you're continuing to see that your A1C is not improving, your blood sugar is not improving, then it leads to another medication.
Yeah. Do you find, Sharita, that they've had it before they were diagnosed with, one of the STDs, HIV, AIDS, whatever, or they've contracted it afterwards?
I've seen both, but a lot of times when they come in and they had it before, they didn't even have a clue. And the only reason they found out is, and the only reason they found out is because I'm here because of this STD or because of I've been diagnosed with HIV.
Right.
And then when we draw the lab, when we check the A1C, they're like, I didn't know I had diabetes.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I've seen people that end up with diabetes after their diagnosis of HIV, and I've seen people that come in just for chlamydia or gonorrhea, and we find an elevated blood sugar.
Yeah. I mean, that just, goes back to the point that Carmen, you made that, we just don't have the information about what is affecting us physically. What about?
Often I think providers overlook the fact that we need to begin to educate people that, they have your medical history. They see that you have a family history of diabetes or a family history of heart disease or whatever it is. And we need to begin at that point to do some prevention education. And I know for myself, I'm a pretty well educated person, but I remember back in the day, some years ago when health conditions happened to me, nobody said, you can change this. You can, this is what you need to look out for. And I think that without access to that prevention information and that prevention education, we kind of have this idea that, oh, well, everybody in my family's got diabetes, I'm going to get it too. Or I'm probably, it's going to happen. Or this is how we eat in my family. Or this is what happens in my family. So we, and I often hear people say, there's this generational curse. I think the curse is that for generations, we don't get education, we don't get information, we don't have access to appropriate and adequate health care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I add, I do believe in DNA. I do believe in genetics. I do think we are genetically predisposed to some diseases, but I do not 100% agree with the fact that because it says it in the literature that, you're probably going to get diabetes because your mother and your father had it or your grandmother's had it. I feel that it comes from culture and from ages ago when we were given scraps to eat and we figured out how to make these scraps taste good. And we did a wonderful job at that.
Absolutely.
So now the way my great grandmother cooked, she taught my grandmother to cook that way.
That's right.
My grandmother taught children to cook that way. And we keep teaching to our generations. And that, I believe, is more of the problem than the fact that it's just in our DNA. Well, maybe we put it there because we're eating things, we're putting it there.
Yeah.
I agree 100% that it's coming from just because it's in my family. It's in your family because we've been taught to do certain things that wasn't the best thing for us. But we had to do it was survival mode.
Yeah. Which goes back to what Carmen says, it's the cultural thing. It's definitely cultural. We're talking about World AIDS Day and HIV, AIDS, STDs. And now we're talking about how it affects folks that have any of those conditions if they then have something else, heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes. We're in the middle of COVID and flu season. Is that another concern for folks who have HIV, AIDS, and STDs, Sharita or Carmen?
Definitely is. And everyone that, people that are living with HIV should definitely have flu vaccinations, because what the flu may do to a person without HIV is probably going to be more harmful to a person that is living with HIV. So they should always be encouraged to get their flu and pneumonia vaccines every year. As far as COVID is concerned, yesterday I was on a Zoom call with Gilead, and surprisingly, they informed me that anybody living with HIV that have a suppressed viral load meaning they're undetected and they are taking their meds every day, they are no more, their risk is no greater than a person that is living without HIV when it comes to COVID.
Really?
That's what I learned yesterday from Gilead. So, but that's if the HIV is suppressed and if they're taking their medicine and undetected. Now, for the ones that are not doing what's required of them to stay healthy, then of course, COVID could definitely be detrimental to them. But yeah, I was informed yesterday that their risk for COVID is no greater than a person living without HIV.
That's a nurse, Sharita Dozier. Carmen Julious with Palmetto AIDS Life Support also joins us. We're talking about World AIDS Day, which the national observance was yesterday. And of course, it's still such, some 40 years later, it's still such a big impact on us nationally, statewide, and particularly in our community. Mitchell Peace Joy Jen says, knowledge is power. Change your mindset and change your life. Absolutely, Mitchell. That's so important. And just like both of these ladies are saying, and, Sharita just said, just because grandmama did it and her grandmother before that did it. I mean, listen, if we know better, we got to do better now. We got to do better. And just think about the fact that do what is important to you. Is it important for you to be around for your children, your grandchildren? Look, I have another, I talked to the 4-year-old conversation because now they are my life. But I was just talking to the 4-year-old today driving, and he's really obsessed with people passing away. And he asked me about my mother, who of course he didn't know, and why she passed away so early in her 50s. And I said to him, listen, and I love my mother, because I'm not talking about my mama, but I'm saying she drank, she smoked, she just didn't do the types of things that she should have done to have a long life. And then he said, a lady that he calls Granny, he said, but Granny is older. She's in her 80s. I said, yeah. And she didn't pass away. I said, you know what? Granny doesn't smoke. She doesn't drink. I said, she exercise. She's kind of doing the things that you need to do to live a long life. And, that's a simplified way to put it. And I was talking to a 4-year-old, but it's kind of that. We've got to do the things we need to do now to live a long and healthy and productive life. Carmen, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, and I think we need to get beyond the idea that good health is for people with money.
Right.
Good health is accessible to all of us. I'm not saying it's always easy, but you don't need a gym membership.
You don't.
Right?
You don't.
And I see all over the internet. I know everybody doesn't have access to the internet, but there are resources that you can find where you can eat healthy on a smaller budget. Yes. You don't have to have crab legs and whatever. I don't know. There's a lot of community gardening going on. You don't have to have a large garden. Get you a couple of pots, put them on your back porch.
You're right.
Tomatoes and peppers. That's what our grandparents used to do. We had to be responsible for more of our food. And that $7, $8, $9 you spend at McDonald's can certainly stretch farther if we think about it and are purposeful about what we're eating. And my diet is not the best. We live in the United States of America where things are so easily accessible. And I remember reading something not too long ago. Someone said that nothing that you eat that you receive through your window is going to be healthy. If you can get it in a bag through your window, it's not going to be healthy. So we've got to get out of this ministry of getting our food through the window. We've got to go back to getting our food from the stove. But my point is that you don't have to be wealthy. You don't have to be well off. You don't have to make a lot of money to take 2 or 3 steps for your health. You don't have to be perfect today, but there are some steps that you can take. Simply right now, mask up, glove up, wash your hands, wear a condom. Some very simple kinds of things that we can do right now today that will increase our positive health outcome.
Yeah, Carmen Julious with PALS. Also, Sharita Dozier joins us. Judy Etheridge says more than 88 million U.S. adults have pre-diabetes, and more than 84% don't know they have it. 34 million people have been diagnosed with diabetes. Judy, thank you so much for that information. Judy is a chef, and she's joined us several times here on this show to provide healthy and tasty, alternatives. Michelle Harris says, and I was thank you for Michelle for your question, because I was going to ask Carmen this next. She says many people drop out of care or don't seek care because of the cost of medical care. How can PALS help with that? And again, Michelle, thank you for your question. That was going to be my final question to you, Carmen. What resources do you offer for folks?
And the cost of medical care is scary for folk, because again, in our community, a high percentage of people do not have health insurance. Call us at PALS. Call us. We offer our services at no or little cost. Let us help you figure out how to pay for it. That's what we are there for. People are afraid of the cost of PrEP. We have been able to get PrEP medication for most folk who are eligible and who need it at no cost or very little cost. The same thing with HIV medications. We can help. Call us. Don't just drop out of care. Our services cover the range from before diagnosis through treatment and care. We can take care of that. Our outreach workers go out to try to find people who are living with HIV who may have dropped out of care, so we can get them back into care. We want them to be healthy, and we know people who are in care take steps to not infect others, or people who are aware of their diagnosis take steps to not infect others. We want them to be in care. We offer testing. We offer HIV testing. We offer testing for chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis, and also COVID in our office.
Oh, that's good to know.
Once you are tested, we can refer you to care. If you're a person living with HIV, Sharita Dozier and her team are here ready to help you. We have an entire care coordination department that includes case managers and outreach workers. We can provide transportation. We can assist you with food, because a lot of times people don't buy food because they need their medicine, or they don't buy medicine because they need food. So we can help with those kinds of things. We have a culturally competent staff. Whoever you are, we can work with you. So, I think that, we need to just get the word out, reach out. There are resources to help all across the state. There are other organizations like PALS who are, of course, we think we're the premier one, but there are organizations across the state that do same or similar services to PALS that are there. We have a network of support. And, of course, our state health authority, DHEC, has information about wherever you may be in the state that can help you connect with care. So, again, we want to provide services. We provide those services usually without necessarily you having to pay money if you are not eligible. We do accept insurance, certainly we do, including Medicaid. And so we have a minimal cost to our testing, but if you cannot afford to pay that, certainly we want to make sure that you know your status so we can take care of you. So please give us a call. Our number is there, 803-779-7257. Currently, we are open 5 days a week, even throughout this COVID pandemic. Our team has been on site and have been providing services throughout.
Right. So 779-7257, 803-779-7257. No matter the age, no matter the race, no matter the creed, no matter the color, people are eligible to insurance or no insurance. Got money or don't have money, don't have a job, whatever the situation, if you need the help. And as you said, Sharita and Carmen, HIV, AIDS, and STD testing, COVID testing, and flu shots. You guys giving flu shots too, Sharita?
We will, yes. They probably should arrive tomorrow.
Okay.
Yep. And we treat all the STDs, not just HIV. All of them.
Right. All right. And if people want more information, 803-779-7257, and it's totally confidential.
Oh, absolutely. Confidentiality is our highest pillar. That is one thing that we do focus on, because certainly we want people to feel comfortable when they come to our office, that they are welcome, nurtured, and well taken care of. So,
Yeah.
and then may I just shout out, this is PALS 35th anniversary. For 35 years, PALS has been providing education, health, housing, and human services to our community. So we want to thank our community for supporting us and believing in us for 35 years.
Awesome. That is Carmen Julious. She is the long time. And you said 35 years and you've been there the whole time, right?
No. I've been there 25.
25. Okay.
Yeah, I started when I was 16. So.
Because I was going to say, you were just a little 10-year-old. Carmen Julious is the CEO of Palmetto AIDS Life Support, and Sharita Doja is a nurse over there at Palmetto AIDS Life Support. Again, you see the number and the website. Please log on to the website if you need more information, and please call if you need the resource, if you know someone who may need the resource, and if you do want them to come out to your community event. I'm not sure how much you're doing in person now, but certainly virtually. Listen, HIV, AIDS, and STDs hadn't stopped just because of COVID. It's still going on because somebody's getting together and doing what's up. So we still need to educate our community. So ladies, thank you again so much for your time and for your service, and for providing this information on this World AIDS Day week.
And thank you, Trey. Thank you for this show. It's so informative for our community. We need this. Thank you for doing this every day. We appreciate you so much for having us also.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Sharita Doja and Carmen Julious, thank you again so much for joining us. I'm Tre Tailor, and thank you again so much for joining us here on our Coping with COVID updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. Coming up tomorrow, we are going to talk to John Lakin is Friday. He's Faith Friday with John Lakin. We're going to talk to the award-winning singer, writer, and producer about his journey. He had a near-death experience, almost 3 years ago. So he's going to sing and play for us tomorrow for Friday, on Faith Friday. Then on Thursday, tomorrow, it is time for open enrollment for the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. We talked to Joel Laurie a couple of weeks ago, and tomorrow we'll talk to Rosalind Goodwin. She is with the South Carolina Hospital Association. That and more coming up this week on Coping with COVID. Listen, if you have a story that could help someone cope with COVID, please email copingwithtreitailor@gmail.com. If you have a product or service that could help someone cope with COVID, please email copingwithtreitailor@gmail.com. We would love to talk to you about being a proud sponsor of Coping with COVID, just like SCDHEC, In It Together, South Carolina, and also the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina. Also sponsors is Palmetto Media Connections and Agape Counseling and Training Center in the City of Columbia, Office of Business Opportunities. Please email us and let us see how we can spotlight your story, your initiative, your business on Coping with COVID. As always, I'm going to leave you with a reading from Jesus Calling. Today is December 2nd, and today Jesus says, "I am the Prince of Peace, and as I said to my disciples, I say also to you, peace be with you. Since I am your constant companion, my peace is steadfastly with you. When you keep your focus on me, you experience both my presence and my peace. Worship me as King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and Prince of Peace. You need my peace each moment to accomplish my purpose in your life." Let me say that again. You need my peace every moment to accomplish your purpose in life. Sometimes you're tempted to take shortcuts in order to reach your goal as quickly as possible. But if the shortcut requires turning your back on me, my peaceful presence, you must choose the longer route. Walk with me along paths of peace. Enjoy the journey in my presence. That's your Jesus Calling for today. What is Wednesday, December 2nd. I'm Tre Tailor. Until the next time, I wish you peace and abundant blessings and ask you to please be careful, stay safe, and don't forget to wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. Again, In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID.
Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.